Hey, sweet friends, welcome back. Today we are talking about how to make a pumpkin cookie platter. So, if you've ever seen the platter cookies on Pinterest, they're so cute, or on Instagram. They are a bunch of small cookies put together to make a bigger piece or a platter that looks like a larger bouquet almost of cookies. So the one that we're making today is a pumpkin shape. These cutters are from Bobby's Cutters. You can find her shop on Etsy. These are from the Lens Platter. She has lots of different choices. She's one of the most popular cutter shops for platter cookies like these, and she has tons of options that go with any season. The pumpkin isn't the only one that you can do. You can make all kinds of platters with these cutters. So the one that I'm doing today, I'm using the piece B, the piece C, and then a separate cutter that's not from the Lens Platter. I believe it's called the Bow Tag. I'm not exactly sure about that one, but I know that I'm using the pieces B and C from the Lens Platter. So I'm cutting 12 of the piece B, and those are going onto a cookie sheet. Now, of course, I'm going to space these out when I put them in the oven, but this was my first time making this, so I was figuring out exactly how many I needed. This cookie dough has been frozen, and I'm just cutting it out after it's thawed just a tiny bit. If you want to learn more about how I freeze my cookie dough so that I can make ahead and still have cookies that don't taste like the freezer, and still save time by working ahead and freezing ahead, you can check out that video in the card above. So we've got the pieces cut out for the main part of the pumpkin. Those are all the B pieces, and those are going onto that cookie sheet lined with parchment. Next, we're going to cut out the C pieces. We're going to need 6 of these. These are going to be the leaves that go up on top. They'll sit directly on top of the pumpkin pieces after they're iced and dried. And we're just going to decorate those with some vines and leaves to make it look like the leafy part of the pumpkin. I'm setting my scraps aside. I like to keep a glass bowl on my counter where I put my scraps when I get done cutting out cookies. I re-roll them once and then refreeze so that I can cut again. But after the second re-rolling, they start to look a little distorted. So I just either make drop cookies or throw away what's not used in that second roll. I'm cutting out my tag, and that is the final piece. Now that these are baked, I'm going to start by decorating each of the pumpkin pieces with Orange Flood Consistency Icing. I use 20-second consistency so that I don't have to change bags as often. I find that it works really well for most any flooding project. You can find my video about royal icing consistency and how I mix my royal icing in the card above. This is the last piece of the pumpkin. We're going ahead and flooding that with that orange just like we did on the rest of those. I love using this 20-second consistency because I outline and flood all with the same consistency in the same bag. Okay, next we're going to be working on our tag, and first we're going to flood the entire surface of the bow. We're going to do kind of a 3D bow, and I'm going to show you more of that later on, but the first step in that process is just flooding with a tan or kind of burlap color is what I was going for with this taupey colored icing. You could get creative with the colors of your pumpkin or your bow or your tag or anything that's on this. That's the beauty of these platter cutters. They're so versatile. Next, we're going to add some vines with a thick green icing. I like to do lots of curly cues because I personally love pumpkins that have the little curly twigs on them. I think they're so cute. And I'm just adding a few teardrop leaves. I make these just by squeezing the piping bag and then pulling back. This consistency icing is straight out of the mixer, so as soon as I get done making my icing, I just pull this out, color it, and put it in a bag. It makes a nice thick consistency that's perfect for leaves, flowers, any kind of thick piping project you're working on. We're going to add more leaves to this later, but I want to do those in a different color. So I'm going ahead and doing some small vine looking leaves and some little twigs. I think this pumpkin set would be so perfect to go on your Thanksgiving table. I've set mine on a cake plate by using some thick royal icing, and then you can just pop the cookies off of the cake plate when you're ready to serve them. I think it would be really pretty if you lean that cake plate up on like a small easel that you might use for displaying china, and it looks really pretty as a centerpiece. You don't have to use the cake plate for this project though. You can set it on a plate or a platter, even in a cookie box or cake box, and it looks really pretty. It'll be a nice gift for a loved one for fall, or something nice to take to any Thanksgiving or fall get-togethers you have. If you want to be extra super fall celebratory this year, extra festive, go ahead and make some pumpkin spice cookies to do this platter with. I think that would be really yummy. I went ahead and used vanilla because it's what I had on hand, but I think pumpkin spice would just be so perfect for this set. Alright, we're going to set those aside to dry. I usually let them dry for a minimum of 8 to 12 hours before attempting to put them onto the cake board, just because I don't want to risk having any dents in the icing. Okay, so I've placed my royal icing in the shape of a bow and some little tags hanging down from the bow kind of. And it's just the general shape, the loop at the top and the larger loop at the bottom. I'm going to allow this to crust before I add the next layer, and we're just going to repeat that process of making the little loop and a bow shape. and it's going to give it some dimension. When you let each component crust before adding the next component, that's what gives you the really pretty puffy royal icing look. Okay, I'm taking some thick consistency. This is straight out of the mixer royal icing, and I'm using this to spread on the back of the cookie and place it onto a cake plate. Excuse me. This is just a cake board that I've purchased from Hobby Lobby. I think it's a 8-inch cake board. And I'm just arranging those cookies on the cake board before I glue them all down to make sure I have them in the right place. That icing will stay wet for a few minutes though, so you have a little bit of wiggle room even after you place the cookies down. Okay, I'm happy with how that looks, so I'm going to go ahead and start gluing those down with royal icing. You could seal this entire piece in a cellophane bag, heat sealed, and it would last 3 to 4 weeks on your counter, so you could enjoy how pretty it looks and then eat it in a few weeks. Or you could let it sit on the counter for 3 or 4 days and enjoy it after that if it's not heat sealed. Okay, now that we've got all the pumpkin pieces glued on with our royal icing, we're going to go ahead and add the leafy pieces that we made yesterday. These just have the little vines and kind of smaller leaves on them right now, but once I get them glued on, I'm going to go ahead and add some bigger, more substantial leaves. While we're getting these glued on, I just want to let you know that if you're interested in learning more about cookie decorating, I do have a Facebook group called Sarah Grace Cookie Company Tips and Resources. You can look it up in the Facebook group section of your Facebook page. We just host a weekly Q&A session where everyone sends in their questions about cookies, whatever they've been struggling with or any victories they've had, anything they want to know more about, and I come in and answer those live every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. So if you have questions about cookie decorating, if you're just curious and want to learn more, come and join that group. It's free. It's open for anyone to join. I think all you have to do, I think my question settings are like, do you want to learn more about cookie decorating? You type yes and then check that you've read the rules of the group and you're in. So if that's something that interests you, definitely come on over and join that group and check it out when I post. Usually I'll post it at like the beginning of the week, the post that ask for questions for that week's Q&A. Post your question in that post and tune in that week to hear it answered live. You can also ask your questions in the comments of the video. I try to get to as many live questions as I can, but it's just to kind of help you out. I know when I was first starting cookie decorating, I just really needed to ask questions. Like, there was just so much information that it really overwhelmed me, and I needed someone to take my hand and just guide me. So that's what I want to be for you if you're starting cookie decorating fresh. So we've added some larger leaves using a tipless piping bag that's been cut in a V shape at the bottom. To make these leaf shapes, I just use that tipless piping bag with the V, squeeze and pull back. I like to give it a little wiggle too. Next, we're writing using an edible marker on our tags that have been flooded with that white icing. The whites had time to dry. This has been drying for at least 8 to 12 hours, and I'm just using some pretty script to write on that welcome fall. You could do anything on this tag though. You could do Happy Thanksgiving. If you have a fall birthday, happy birthday. We even had a fall baby shower this year. My nephew is going to be here in December, and so we were celebrating his mom a little bit early in October, and so we had like some welcome little pumpkin type themes, so that would be really cute for this piece as well. Okay, next we are going to add the next part of our bow. The part that we already put down has had time to dry, so we're going to add the next 2 loops on our bow just by making that little loop shape and then coming down and making the bow shape again. Then we're going to flood inside that larger part. Don't be afraid to fill it up. We want this to look nice and puffy. Then even it out just a bit with the scribe. After this has a chance to crust, we're going to go back and add a dot in the center to create that bow look. If you really wanted to give this some beautiful dimension, you could go back in with some icing and some gel food coloring and lemon extract and make some little shading and highlights in between. But that's the finished product. That's how it looks when it's done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll check out Bobby's Cutter Shop to buy your platter cookies. Thanks so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.